Does anybody here have any money? Give me some money. I know we're all broke in this economy, but here you go. Yesterday was my day off. I woke up at 9 a.m. I took a few sleeping pills. I went back to bed and just slept the day gone. Because the only way I can survive off what I make is if my week is only 6 days long. I'm for gun control. I know, what a human being I am. And I'm from Louisiana, sportsman's paradise. A lot of gun shooting, not me. I didn't grow up that way. And people growing up couldn't handle that information. They were like, what, you're from Louisiana, you don't like guns? It got to the point where my answer would be, nah, man, knives only. You ever stared a deer in its eye as you pierce his breastplate and breathe in its soul? They'll leave you alone after a statement like that, you know? I grew up in the wonderful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Wonderful place. The only complaint I would have about New Orleans is that it's entirely too close to a place known as Mississippi. Now, you asked me 2 years ago what I thought about Mississippi. I'd say it was a vapid wasteland, piece of shit, awful, terrible place full of bigoted rednecks. But recently, 2 months ago, I saw something in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It gave me hope. It was a Prius. It's rare in Mississippi. Wasn't just that, though. It was the bumper sticker on the Prius. And that bumper sticker was a rainbow-colored Confederate flag. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. I'm gonna let that sink in for just a second. A rainbow-colored Confederate flag. That implies that not only will the South rise again, that it will immediately then drop to its knees at a glory hole. Yes! Openly gay rednecks? Thank you. Where have they been? If there is a God and God writes life like a TV series, then God just introduced some very important characters. This season's gonna be good. And no, I'm not gay. I suffer from this hetero curse. But I wish every day of my life I was gay, because it just seems easier. Seems more fun. Like how checkers is easier than chess, you know what I mean? It's a game, you still gotta play it, but chess, you gotta worry about how each individual piece moves differently, and the queen's all powerful, the king can't do shit. Checkers, just jump in there and hop. Everybody hops the same direction. Enjoy it, have fun. You get to the other side, team up, hop back the other way. Live your life. And the idea of being a gay redneck, like, look, I know gay community, I know not all gay people are flamboyant, I get that, but I hope every single gay person in Mississippi is aflame. Righteously sassy, like I hope that. Like, I hope they're taking the redneck culture away and owning it. Like, right now, I hope there are gay rednecks hunting. Only they're not wearing a hunter's orange. No, that's tacky. They're wearing like a hunter's magenta. A hunter's teal. It doesn't clash with the woods. And they don't have rifles, they have super soakers. Because they're not hunting animals, they're hunting other gay rednecks dressed as animals. That's how you meet singles in the gay redneck world. You hide, you pop out of a bush, like, squirt, squirt, Mr. Bison, you're dead. Squirt, squirt, Mr. Bison, you're dead as shit. Yeah, you're gonna get stuffed and mounted, for sure. Only not in that order! Oh, is that a bear? Is that a bear dressed like a bear? How like post-meta or whatever. I'm gonna get him too. Taxidermy three-way. Squirt, squirt. Oh shit, he's real. Get out of here. By a round of applause, how many people here have never been tested for an STD? themselves before they realize, oh, Jesus, yeah, get tested, you monster. I hope you were slapping. I hope you were going, I hope that's what you did. I was tested a year ago, okay? I did something stupid. I wasn't nervous till I got there because I'm not a sexually deviant person. Like, I get laid more or less than you think. But I'll paint the picture for you. If there were a bar and every woman I had ever slept with were in that bar and you walked in there, your reaction would be, oh, there's people here. The nurse, she's just lacing into me right away, and she said, why you come in here? You look wholesome to me. And maybe that's what she meant, but I still read too far into it and was like, you think I can't get an STD? You think I'm not sexually irresponsible enough, woman? I'm a Scorpio. You don't know me. But I didn't say any of that. I just told her the truth. I said, ma'am, I'm here because I've had unprotected sex twice. And without missing a beat, she goes, twice? Who you think you is, RoboCop? You could argue that maybe she was trying to imply that I thought I was invincible, and using RoboCop as an example, maybe, but that'd be too easy. I think that they made a fourth RoboCop in Jamaica, and we haven't seen it yet, where RoboCop becomes aware that he still has a human penis and is now all about getting me RoboCop, me come to smash all the puss. RoboCop horny all the damn time. Oh, bend over, pretty lady. Me so horny, me sort of sound Irish. Put some down, Lord of mercy. Oh, thank you for letting me bust me robo nut. And just for the record, by the way, my results, clean. Clean as Detroit City after RoboCop cleaned up all the scum, man.
My brain is a jerk. My own brain hates me. It's a jerk. If my brain could become a person, it would be a bully that followed me around 24/7 that only I could see or hear. Because no matter what I'm doing, my brain will eventually chime in like, hey, what's going on, loser? What are you doing, losing? What's it like losing all the time? Hey, look what I found when I was digging around deep in our memory banks. You remember this? You were 12 years old, some 9-year-old kid beat you up and stole your bike, and all you did was cry. You should think about that for a couple of weeks and then start smoking again, sissy. Hey, are you talking to a girl? Who do you think you are, dweebus? Hey, stare at her crotch. 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 Do it. She wants you to. Why else would she be wearing blue jeans?
I was invited to a frat party late last year. I went because I'd never been. I was excited. It was during Rush Week. I wanted to see some rush, some hazing. And I saw some, and it was lame. I was disappointed. All they did was make the pledges drink. That's it. They would randomly be like, pledges, drink up, and all these guys would drink. And I was like, that's it? That's all you're gonna do? You don't wanna see what they're willing to go through to be frat brothers? God, that made me wish I was a frat boy so bad. I would just to be that eccentric one who only comes out of his room during Rush Week. That when it comes out to with their heads, you know, like, all right, pledges, line up. Y'all wanna be Sigma Nigma Nu? Y'all wanna be Sigma Nigma Nu? Let's see if you got what it takes. You, here's a case of warm beer. You know the drill. Drink. You, dip your scrotum in this fishbowl full of angry scorpions. You, count to 40 out loud. You, go out back. There's a kiddie pool full of heroin addict piss. Bathe in it. You, email your favorite cousin. Just say hi. You, force your grandmother to watch this bukkake film with you on Easter Sunday while she eat Cadbury eggs together. You, take a nap right now. Power nap, bitch, no pillow. You. Siphon start that sumo wrestler's enema. You. Just hang out. You're cool. Sigma Nigma Nunu. Sigma Nigma Nunu. Sigma Nigma Nunu. Sigma Nigma Nunu. 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 A Sigma Nigma Nunu. 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 A Sigma Nigma Nunu. A Nunu. A Sigma Nigma Nunu baby. A Sigma Nigma Nunu baby. A boy. A Sigma Nigma Nunu boy. A Sigma Nunu boy. A man. A Sigma Nigma Nunu man. A Sigma Nigma Nunu. Responsibility. Integrity. Leadership. That's the handshake pledge. Learn it. Only one of you made it, obviously. The guy who drank, he's in. The rest of you are weird. Oh, let's get it home, people. To you, you know? Fellas, men in the audience, how many of you are taking penis enlargement pills? All right, fair enough. Very proud of that. All right. See, men take these pills because they want to, impress women, because they think women only want to sleep with men who have big dongs. Is that true? I don't know. Let's find out. Women, how many of you can only sleep with a man if you know he's got a big frickin' ding-a-ling? All right, honesty. Honesty's good. See, here's the thing. Women like that exist. Women who can only sleep with a man who's got a big frickin' penis. And there's a reason behind that. It's a medical condition. I'll explain it to you right now. Those type of women can only sleep with a man if he's got a big penis because they need that big to fill the inner void within them. You know, the one that's caused by the lack of a soul? I don't have a big penis. And you know what? I don't want one. I don't need one. I'm good with my discreet penis. It's been mine all my life. I know exactly how to use it. I know its strengths. I know its weaknesses. It's compact, but it handles the road, you know? And it gets great gas mileage. And it has a sunroof and power locks. Anyway, just imagine a warrior, the deadliest warrior in the world, but he's only deadly with a dagger. Doesn't matter what size of your weapon if you're deadly. What I'm trying to say is, ladies, just let me come at you with my dagger. I promise I will slay thee. I'm exaggerating a little bit about it's not that small. Not. Okay, here's something we can all relate to. If my penis were, say, an annual salary, $47,000 a year. With dental. That's pretty good. 47,000's plenty, ladies, if you just tighten up your budget. Have a tight budget. Don't just have a loose, skanky-ass budget, you know? How many of you, by round of applause, listen to music at work? How many of you that applauded to that are surgeons? Now, did you know that? Did you know that surgeons listen to music when they operate? Put on Pandora and just jam out. Some of them make a playlist and just, it's cool, but it's also like a reminder, we're just a gig to them. That's it. It's your life, but it's just there 2:30. Right? I learned this, okay, my little brother is a surgical tech, okay? That's what he does for a living. He assists surgeons in the operating rooms. Far too much pressure for a young boy. He's 26. Like, the things he has to do are insane.
Like, he called me after assisting in an open heart surgery, and he told me what he had to do. He had to reach into a man's opened up chest cavity, grab the beating human heart, and hold it steady whilst they rotated the patient. Which, actually, why didn't they rotate the guy first? Saying that out loud, that seems completely backwards. I didn't think to ask. Like, the surgeon just barge in, like, cut him open, I'm ready. Like, what doctor? He hasn't been properly rotated. I don't give a fuck, I'm an MD, get the cotton, motherfucker. Like, all right, fine, Jesus. He always gets like this when he listens to Flight of the Bumblebee. That is such, like, that's too much pressure. My brother's a better man than I could. I could never do that job, because the whole time I would be fighting thoughts like, bite it. Bite it, do it. Bite right into it. Eat it. Eat it. Eat a man's heart. Do it right now. Yeah, you go to prison, but you'll be the king. You'll be the king of the prison. No one's ever gonna fuck with you after they hear you eat a man's heart whilst it's still pumped life. I bet that's why they actually wear those masks. In case one of them's like, sorry. Sorry. My grandfather was in the Donner Party. And if it weren't a thought like that, it would be another one, another morbid thought, like, tear it out of his chest, do it. Grab this man's heart tightly and rip it out of his chest. Why? Spare him the agony of ever having a lover do it. And like, what if he just did? I can't unthink that. Like, what if it was a mistake? Like, people fuck up at work all the time. Like, what if my younger brother had committed the surgical tech equivalent of, like, spilling a tray of drinks? You know, right? Like, you know how some people, or most people, sneeze normally? Like, achoo, right? But you know how some people sneeze like, ha, 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 like they're trying to fight turning into a werewolf? Like, ha, 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 ha. All right? That's how my younger brother sneezes. Like he's expelling lazy demons. So he's holding the heart and then, oh shit. Ah, ah, sorry, ah, ah. No, sorry. Now he's just standing there with a disembodied heart. The machines, boo! They're all staring at him like, who sent you? I would hope in that moment, if it ever happened, that he would just own it. You know, like, I was quitting this job anyway. Fuck you, nerds. It's not what happened, don't worry. My brother didn't accidentally murder a guy. In fact, the surgery wasn't even the main reason he called me. The main reason he called is because he wanted me to know that the head surgeon, for the duration of that surgery, whilst performing it, made a play mix that they listened to, and it was comprised of one band. And that band was Korn. Someone said Nickelback. Close enough, but not really. A woman tried to register a peacock as an emotional support animal. A peacock. Like, first of all, that's a cry for help we all missed. Like, what kind of emotional turmoil are you in where you need support from a peacock? Have you ever seen a peacock? Peacock? It's not the NBC. It's not that at all. It's a more of a, the head gets crazy. It makes that exact sound, like a demonic turkey, man. A peacock, like what? The poor woman must have been in such a dark place, like, this life is meaningless, it's like a cloud over my head, and I'm never gonna snap out of it, and I just don't. Thanks, Felipe.